All right, welcome to the Haider podcast. Taping this on a Friday, rainy Friday, albeit in Clemson. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show, making his rookie appearance on the podcast, Ben Wowk. How you doing?
Not too bad. I'm pretty excited to be here. Got a lot to say today, I think, after a uneventful trade deadline in the NBA, and I've got some pointers on that to some teams.
All right, so let's jump right into the NBA here. We're kind of at the halfway point. All-Star Weekend just happened. So, as it stands right now, who would be your top 10 teams on this day in February?
All right. My number one team, and I think this is going to surprise a few people, I've got to go Clips.
Really?
I think the depth they have, and just, Chris Paul, I think, is just well and beyond the best point guard in the league. And you look at Jamal Crawford's having a great year. And then DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin, I think, is a great tandem in the backcourt. And overall depth, you have Billups, you have Grant Hill. Grant Hill's still playing like he's 30, not 40. So I think that depth there helps you. Two spot, you got to go Heat. LeBron. I mean,
that's where I had him.
He's gonna win you a championship again at some point. I don't know, be it this year or next year, but he's kind of playing out of his mind.
Yeah.
Number 3, I go back to the West in San Antonio and then Oklahoma City at the 4 spot. San Antonio, you can't bet against Greg Popovich and Tim Duncan. Tony Parker's been coming on hot lately. And then Oklahoma City, you got Kevin Durant, and that's all. All you need. They added Ronnie Brewer yesterday from the Knicks, and Brewer hasn't really played much, but if you're looking for just a defensive stopper out there, I think he could be your guy. He's not going to really provide much offense, but yeah. And then Indiana, they're sharp right now. They're sharp.
I have them at 5 as well.
Yeah.
I have the same kind of teams as you in your top 5, but I just have them in a different order. I've got San Antonio 1, Miami 2, the Thunder 3, Clippers 4. For the same reasons that you said, just I feel that they're in a different order. The Spurs, the way Tony Parker's playing, he's probably playing the best basketball of his career right now.
Yeah,
it's hard to argue not putting the team with 42 wins and 14 losses.
They have 12 losses.
They have 12 losses.
I'm looking at they're 12 losses. They're 24-8 in the West, and they're 9-1 in their last 10.
And that one loss was to the Knicks. Sorry, never mind. I thought you said they were 9-1 in the East, but
no, they're 9-1 in their last 10.
Yeah,
the Knicks have beaten them twice though.
Yeah,
the Knicks. I want to put them.
Do you have the Knicks in top 10?
They're in my top 10, and I want to put them in my top 5 so bad, but I just can't.
Where are they in your top 10?
I either got them at 6 or 7, and it's between them and Memphis. And Memphis I haven't watched them enough this year, but Connolly and Gasol, I think, are good players that they are good enough with supporting cast to help win you a first-round series in the playoffs with Tony Allen D'ing up someone big time. But the Knicks, I watched the game on Wednesday night, and I just wanted to cry the whole night. I don't know if you caught it, but it was a 40-point blowout.
Yeah, I saw. I have the Knicks at 8. Behind, and then at 5 I had Indiana, but then I have Memphis and Denver at 6 and 7.
And Denver.
The Knicks, to me, what they were winning on early in the year
is gone.
Yeah, because they were just shooting 3 out of their mind.
Yeah.
And Rasheed Wallace going out, I don't know when he's going to be back.
Canby scrimmaged yesterday for the first time in what seems like a decade. Rasheed Wallace has been at practice from what I'm hearing. And I hate to put all my hopes and dreams on Kenyon Martin, but yeah, I could not be more excited to see him get on the court.
If this was 2002 and you have Kidd and Martin, you're ecstatic.
I'm ecstatic, and I put the Knicks right at the top.
Not 2013.
But
they got a lot of miles on those legs.
We've got miles, but at the same time, you're bringing in. I'm hoping. Another thing they lost the defense and that 3-point shooting. And I'm hoping Martin brings back a little defense and a little urgency to the squad.
Just a presence inside where they could dump it into the paint.
Mm-hmm.
and they can get, because Tyson Chandler's not that type of guy. He's mostly putbacks, alley-oops. Yeah. Like, he's not going to create his own shot.
No. And I feel like Martin could have a shot at doing that, but mainly I'm liking it because he's going to give you a ton of effort. I don't know how you feel about that one.
Okay. Now, after the Knicks in my top 10, I have Utah and Boston. And with the moves Boston made at the trade deadline, bringing in Jordan Crawford after losing both Barbosa and Rondo.
Mm-hmm. I like
and Sullinger.
Yeah, Sullinger, I think, is the most out of those three. Obviously, Rondo's the biggest, but then I take Sullinger over Barbosa. Sullinger was playing great basketball to start his career. Just an all-around guy. You know, he's not going to be the star. You've got KG and Brandon Bass always puts up good numbers, but Sullinger's there on the defense, and he has sound fundamentals in the post. And yeah, I love Jordan Crawford. He's able to score with the best of them, and I think without Barbosa, that's what you need to add, and I think they got it. But I think another team to watch out for in this top 10 is Chicago.
Yeah, now
they're a little injured right now, but I'm going to give them the pass because even without Rose, they were playing good ball.
Yeah.
And if Rose can come back, and honestly, I'll tell you, Derrick Rose, don't come back till playoffs. Rest up.
Yeah.
Like, Chicago's going to get in. And you look at the things. Chicago's in 5th place right now. They're one above Atlanta.
I don't see them going higher than 3.
No, if they get,
they're going to make the playoffs, but I don't see them being. I don't think anybody else is going to be the 1 seed, but besides Miami, everybody else is just going to kind of be jockeying for position under that. I just see Chicago going as high as 3.
Yeah,
that's kind of like their ceiling almost.
Mm-hmm. I think in the end, Indiana takes the 2 from New York, and I think New York can stick it out in the 3 seed. But Brooklyn, I think they're quietly playing good basketball right now.
Yeah, they're another wild. The East is just full of wild.
A lot of wild cards. You got. I think Miami and Indiana are the 2 sure things, in my opinion, because Indiana puts in a game in, game out, great effort, and they've got great depth. But then you look at New York, Brooklyn, Chicago, Boston, and Atlanta. That's 5 of the other. The 8 seed, I think you can chuck them out. It's either going to be Philly or Milwaukee. Maybe if Toronto can stay hot. I don't see it happening. But Philly and Milwaukee, what are they going to do? I don't think they're not going to beat the Heat or Indiana in the first round. But then from the 3 through 7, it gets pretty crazy. Yeah. Right now, Boston is 5.5 games out of the 2 seed from New York, but that I feel is going to close because New York's going to stumble a little, Boston's going to pick it up, and everyone is within that, and it's going to be interesting second half, I feel like, for the East.
Now, you mentioned you think Indiana's going to get up to number 2.
They're half a game out right now, and just the way I saw them play the other night, it's tough to think that they don't take it from New York.
Here's my theory with that. Is, you watch all the shows and everything, and they'll say Indiana is the matchup nightmare for Miami. Because of the size, the way they rebound, the way just the personnel matches up well with the Heat. And it's proven that because they beat them twice.
I think the matchup nightmare for the Heat is Indiana, Chicago, and New York.
That's the second team. New York, not so much. I mean, I know they've beaten them the 2 times they've played them. But
that was with both times without Amari. And you add that size.
The second time was without Carmelo.
And
that was in Miami.
I'm going to throw the second time out as a fluke with Raymond Felton dropping like 28 or whatever he did. I don't think I've seen 3-pointers go down as much.
And then the first game was a Sandy-inspired win.
Yeah, that was the first game of the season, national television.
In the Garden after the whole Hurricane Sandy thing.
I'll give that one to New York, but I still think it's going to be a tough matchup. That's a 6-7 game series. But I think Chicago and Indiana, the size, with Hibbert and West, and then Noah and Boozer, you've got to put LeBron on one of those guys. And I don't think, he's a great athlete, but I don't think he can guard Boozer that well. And David West is a great passer up at the top of the foul line. And then you've got Joel Anthony covering Roy Hibbert or Joakim Noah. Joakim Noah, I think, over the last 3 years, the most improved player in basketball.
Yeah.
He's gone from 0 offense a game to pretty good, and in my opinion, should have been an all-star if he wasn't. I'm not sure if he made it or not.
No, he did.
I think I think I'd put him up there as one of the top 3 centers with Tyson Chandler and Dwight Howard.
Now, here's my theory with Indiana. If they were to get up to the 2 seed, now, if higher seeds prevailed in the playoffs, well, the NBA doesn't reseed anyway, but if Indiana was the 2 or 3 seed, Miami wouldn't have to play them till the conference finals, potentially. But if they're the 4 seed, the Heat would play them in the second round if the higher seeds prevail.
Yeah.
And if you're Miami, you got to be thinking, these guys have beat us twice. They're a tough matchup for us. We would want to rather have 2 teams get a shot at beating them and taking them out.
Miami wants Indiana to take the 2 seed. I agree with that.
Or the 3, because they wouldn't play them until the conference finals regardless. So that's my whole theory with that. Just give 2 other teams a shot, beat them up a little, maybe just knock them around, get them a little tired.
Yeah.
Miami just kind of skates through, maybe loses 1, 2 games at the most in the first 2 rounds, and then if they see Indiana in the conference finals, they might have a little better shot at beating them, or not as kind of intimidated.
I agree with you 100%. Miami's not a team that wants to play beat you up basketball, where I think that's Boston, Indiana, and Chicago. Those guys want to pound it, slow pace a game, fight you inside, and that's how they're going to beat you. And it's worked this year for all 3 of those teams. And I think that's their advantage over Miami.
All right, so let's go back to the Knicks.
Okay.
We're both residents of the New York City area, metropolitan area. We've been watching them all year. Start of the season, they were exciting.
Yeah. They're 14-14 after going 18-5.
See, I was going to break it down like this. I think the turning point of their year was the Christmas Day game against the Lakers, a game they should have won, and they blew. They blew it towards the end. Kid messed up the inbounds play, let Pau Gasol go right down the lane for a
Felon gets injured. You already lost Wallace.
Let me throw some numbers at you here.
All right. Hit me.
Before Christmas Day, so start of the year up until December 24th, through December 24th, New York, 20-7.
Until Christmas Day.
Yeah, not including Christmas Day.
Okay.
Christmas Day and beyond, 12-12.
It hurts. Yeah.
And I think that can be traced back to the whole, the way they were winning in the early part of the year was they were just hitting so many threes, and they didn't have any, really injuries. And granted, that was all with Stoudemire, but now he's back, and he's fitting nicely into the role that he's come back into. It's just their shots, they're not hitting the shots at the same way. And Felton missed all the time, and you can, Felton's been much maligned, whatever, taking too many shots, but he's his role on that team is integral to how well they do.
It really is, because you look at who else is going to play point guard, and you got Jason Kidd. I don't like him in the starting lineup now, and with Felton out and him being forced in the starting lineup, I don't like that at all. And then Pablo Prigioni is he's a 3rd point guard on a team. He's not a 2nd point guard, he's not a 1st.
Yeah.
So you put a lot of pressure on Felton. And then another thing, since that Christmas Day game, there's been no effort on this team.
The defensive effort especially.
Yeah, you just look at...
that's one of the things they lived on in the first half was, shutting teams down.
Yeah. The pick-and-roll defense is atrocious. No one's getting through on switches. There's always someone open on a rotation, and it's not there. Where you see on other teams that they can defend that, the Knicks cannot. And you think, Shumpert's going to help that out, and he hasn't. He just hasn't helped the team out the way he is. And Woody has cut his minutes back. And I think another key to the second half is Woodson figuring out the rotation.
Yeah. Because they almost have, too many guys.
And that, I think, is one of the problems.
And they're so old that you can't play. If you play one guy too many minutes one night, you basically burn him for this. It's almost like a relief pitcher in baseball. Yeah. You use him too much. Like for the Yankees, if Rivera goes for a 5-out save on Tuesday, he's not pitching on Wednesday.
No. If you use a reliever 2 innings 2 nights in a row, he's not going to play a 3rd game.
Yeah, no.
If Jason Kidd puts in 25 minutes in a back-to-back, even with a 2-day break, it's going to be tough for him to put in 15 next. And the problem with that is you've got, all right, so Jason Kidd gets 30 minutes one night. He's got to rest the next night. Oh, so Prigioni's going to play those minutes? Prigioni's also 35 years old. And now you can't get a momentum because you're switching guys on and off. Kurt Thomas was playing big minutes the other night, but that was the first time he's done that since early November.
Kurt Thomas he started some games.
Yeah. Kurt Thomas started some games, but then, where's his mojo? Where's his momentum from the nights before? Carmelo Anthony can get a hot streak going because he plays the same amount every night. But Kurt Thomas can't do that. Marcus Camby's never going to be able to do that. Kidd can't do that. It gets tough with too many guys. And I think you look at the roster, Copeland and James White are the two guys who really don't ever have to play. And then everyone else is either a former All-Star or is. And I don't know where the team's going right now. And the thing that you hear from a lot of reporters is that this team was built for April, when the playoffs start. But the question is, at what point are they going to realize that and start turning it on? Like, this is where we need to go.
Yeah.
And I don't think March is going to be an easy month for them. They got 10 of 15 on the road coming up.
Yeah.
And I see us dropping back a few spots in the rankings here.
Yeah. And now another kind of record breakdown I'm going to throw at you here is November. New York was 11-4.
Mm-hmm.
December, 10-5. January, 7-6. And so far in February, they're 4-4 with 3 games to play in the month.
I think the age is catching up to them, man. You got to think that's the problem.
Yeah. In the second half, with all the road trips coming up,
it's not going to be easy.
You mentioned March. They've got their second West Coast trip of the year. From March 11th to the 18th, they're at Golden State, at Denver, at Portland, at the Clippers, at Utah.
And let's look at those teams real quick. Golden State, I think, is one of my surprise teams out of the West. Yeah. And a team that, I don't see them getting a home court advantage in any series, but can easily take a series. Golden State can go on the road and win one and then maybe sweep at home. And I can see that. Steph Curry, proves he can get hot at the right times. And then even Utah, that's the 7th seed and a very tough 7th seed. Portland, for not being in the playoffs is one of the better non-playoff teams.
The Knicks lost to them on New Year's Day. I was at that game.
Yeah.
Ran all over the place.
Portland
shots right and left.
Golden State and Portland hold the key to being the Knicks, and that's a good point guard.
Yeah.
That's their weakness because Felton has not played the defense he was in the beginning.
See, I think the Knicks have another weakness. And it got exposed by a couple teams in the Western Conference, namely Houston and Memphis. The Knicks struggle against teams that have big, athletic wing players. Because the Knicks just don't.
Mm-hmm.
You team like...
I agree.
If based on their starting lineup of Felton, Kidd...
Shump,
Melo,
and
Tyson Chandler. All right. Felton's 6'2", Kidd's 6'4", Shump's 6'5", 6'6", Melo's 6'8".
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a small ball lineup.
Chandler's 6'11",
7 foot or whatever. Yeah. Chandler's not changing position anytime soon.
No. They've been playing Melo at the 4 a lot, which he can guard some 4s. It's mostly in the backcourt that there's the issues. Because, especially since the Knicks guards are up there in age, like if you ask Jason Kidd to chase around James Harden all night, he just can't do it. Granted, when they played Houston the 2 times, Shumpert wasn't there, so I think if they played him again, Shumpert would guard him.
Yeah.
But still, they have small guards that are older.
And this is where
can't run.
Yeah. And I think, we talk about the defense in the beginning of the year. We saw Melo giving his effort, and that rubbed off on J.R. Smith. That Melo stopped caring on defense, so is J.R. Smith. And so, hopefully, what I'm envisioning is we want to keep Amari on the bench, but I want to start Felton, Shumpert, Melo, and then some combination of when they're healthy, Wallace, Camby or Martin at the 4 spot, and then Tyson down low. And I think that's tough for teams to match up against.
See, I think they should change their starting lineup based on who they're playing. Because if it's if you got big guards, that they should, as much as J.R. Smith likes coming off the bench and he's been good in that role for most of the season, you just need this simple size and athleticism that he brings that kid doesn't. You got to leave Felton. He's the point guard. Most point guards are about his height, and he's still fairly athletic enough to check them for most of the game.
To call him a little bowling ball because he's a little round. And when he gets going, he gets going.
Yeah.
But, it's just an effort thing, and I'm hoping Kenyon Martin, when he gets on the court, he's going to start holding guys accountable, and, he's not afraid to get in someone's face. He doesn't care if Melo, is a potential MVP this year. He's going to yell at him, and I like that.
Yeah, and they've played together before, so he kind of knows what he's getting into.
Yeah, some people call him the New York Nuggets now because, you got Melo, J.R. Smith, Camby, and Kenyon Martin. So
yeah, I could see that.
It's going to be tough for them. I think in the end they're going to end up being the 3 or 4 seed, playing probably Chicago, Brooklyn, or even Boston the first round, and it's not going to be an easy path to play Miami. So that's where that's at. But let's talk a little Western Conference. What are your thoughts?
It's pretty balanced, 1 through 8.
It is. I mean,
Houston. The couple times I've watched them this year, if you were to just watch their games.
Before we let's get one thing. Let's get this discussion out of the way. Lakers, are they making the playoffs or are they stinking it up the rest of the season?
I think they come close. I think they miss it though. That's so talked about at nauseum, and I just don't even want to go into that much discussion.
I want them to miss it because I hate them right now, and I hate ESPN for talking about them so much.
It's so microanalyzed.
It is.
It's almost worse than the New York Jets quarterback who shall remain nameless on this podcast, the coverage he got when he was with the Broncos.
Yeah.
Like, every little thing gets blown out. Like, I was watching the other day, and they're like, Dwight didn't talk to Kobe during All-Star Weekend. It's like, they might be just busy.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on. And the funny thing, I'm going to say this before we move on. I don't think they make the playoffs because I feel Houston's going to get a little hot here at the end. They just added Thomas Robinson, which is going to give them a little depth on the bench. But Steve Nash, I don't think anyone's gotten a bigger pass in the NBA this year than Steve Nash.
He's been terrible the time he's played.
He has been awful.
I mean, he can still shoot, but, he can't guard.
He can't guard?
I'm not saying Kid can guard either, but
I'm going to pull up a few numbers on Steve Nash, but, he isn't making the impact that, you expected from...
While you do that, Lakers are currently chasing Houston for the eighth spot in the West.
Three games back for that eighth spot.
Which, it's another thing about the Lakers. Everybody's making them out like they're going to be, they're, 20 games under 500. Mm-hmm. They're 25 and 29 or whatever they are. They're only 3 under 500.
Yeah. They're right there. They could make a run for it, but I don't see it happening.
If you watch, the couple times I've watched Houston this year, if you were to watch Houston in certain games, you'd think this team's like a top 4 seed in the Western Conference, one of the best teams in the league. But somehow they're 29-26. I don't get it.
Yeah. James Harden and Jeremy Lin went for a combined 70 or something last night against Oklahoma City. And you just think, if they can get it together on a consistent basis, this is that's one of the best teams in the league, I think.
The X factor for them is Chandler Parsons. Second-year player, second-round pick out of Florida. He's a matchup nightmare for teams.
He's 6'10", I think.
He killed the Knicks. When the Knicks played the Rockets in Houston, the day after Thanksgiving or something like that,
mm-hmm.
he had 20-something points in the first half. Because the Knicks just didn't have an answer for him.
He's he's playing the 3. He's 6'9".
With guard skills.
Yeah. He's got the handles to make you respect the drive, and he's got a jump shot. So this season, he's going for 14.5 points a game. And out of your, he's their 3rd best player at best, behind Harden and Lin, I think. And then they've got Omer Assis, who is a solid center. This is an all-around good team. They've got a lot of good players. And if Harden can play at Olympic team level, I think this team can go a little higher than the 8th seed and maybe even challenge whoever's in the 7th.
They're one of those teams, when they're on, they're on.
They are on.
They're so fun to watch because they play up-tempo.
Yeah. And that's
basketball.
the key to their team, up-tempo.
But when they're off,
it gets ugly.
They're off. And that's why I think, that's probably one of the reasons why they're 29, 26 or whatever they are and, you know, flirting with the 8th seed.
Mm-hmm. And I see, they're not going to get higher than the 7th, I don't think. And then so you'll play Oklahoma or San Antonio. I think they give them a push in the playoffs, but they're not going to make anything of it. And I think
the better matchup for them is the Spurs.
Yeah, you want Houston's youth versus the Spurs' age,
and also Oklahoma City. Even though they killed Oklahoma City the other night, it's a 1-game sample. Because Oklahoma City killed Houston early in the year, but that was. Houston had been flying all day because it was right after Kevin McHale's daughter passed away. So they were in Minnesota early in the day, then flew right after the funeral to Oklahoma City for the game. So it was a mess.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma City is as athletic and plays as up-tempo basketball as they do. So that'd just be
Houston is the
iron
poor
sharpening iron.
Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And I think Houston, if we want to talk future rankings, that's a team I watch out for next year.
Yeah.
They're going to get probably... They're not going to be lottery picked. They're going to be right after that lottery.
Because, they're probably going to be the 8th seed in the West.
And I look for them to hopefully make a really smart pick and potentially get one of those late first-round sleeper guys who's going to come in and make an impact off the bench.
Yeah. And they kind of have their whole situation figured out because they signed Lynn over the summer. They signed Asik over the summer. They signed Harden.
They get Harden.
I'm pretty sure when he got traded, they signed him to a new deal.
I think he's now.
Chandler Parsons is locked up for the next 2 years at a very cap-friendly $900K or something like that. Yeah. It's under $1 million.
Rookie
because he's still on his deal.
Yeah, and then you now got a rookie Thomas Robinson who. Last year, I watched Kansas a lot, and I picked them to win the thing. I love Thomas Robinson. I think. He's got LeBron size. He does not have his shooting ability or
just general overall.
His general overall skills. But he's got LeBron size, but he gives great effort. He's on the boards all game.
Yeah.
He's got great leaping ability. And then you also got Terrence Jones out of Kentucky. I think Robinson's potential is much higher than Jones, but if they both can hit that, you've got 2 solid bigs coming off the bench for Houston. So that's a team to look out for, I think. But my team that I'm looking real sleeper for the West, I got to go Golden State.
Yeah. Now they're my surprise team for the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Of the
they're
season.
Definitely a surprise, and I think that's direct correlation to Steph Curry being just the money player.
And Klay Thompson, emerging in his second year
at
Washington State.
I think Draymond Green has been a great surprise for everyone.
Yeah, he was a second-round pick for them.
Yeah. And then
David Lee just doing his usual double-double dance.
David Lee, I don't know if there's a guy who will consistently give you 14 points and 10 rebounds. If I go up to David Lee and get me 12 boards tonight, I don't care what else you do. He's going to do it.
Yeah. And during the doldrum Knicks seasons of the Isaiah reign, he was kind of the one bright spot.
He was an all-star those years.
Yeah.
Once or twice.
On some terrible Knicks teams.
Horrendous. And respectfully so, because he's a guy, even at 6'9", he's putting in a ton of work down low. But the key to this team, I think, which is going to make or break this roster, is Bogut.
Yeah.
You've got Curry, Thompson, Harrison Barnes playing great, Draymond Green, David Lee, and you even have Carl Landry in there. Those guys are going to give you consistent effort. Curry's going to get hot at some point
and
this
Jared
season.
Jack, he's been playing pretty well.
Jack is the ideal backup point guard, I think, for any team. But if Bogut can come back strong, you got a young 7-foot center who is...
He's not that young.
He's 28, so he's in that group with, LeBron and Wade and Melo.
Yeah.
So, if he can come back, you've got a solid offensive player at the center position, which not a lot of teams have.
Yeah.
You look at who's good offensively at center position, and really all I can think of is Brook Lopez. Tyson Chandler has no offensive game. Noah is still developing.
Would you classify Chris Bosh as a center?
No, I would still give him a power forward.
Right.
Same with KG. They're not.
Yeah.
And by center, I mean your back is to the basket. And that's what Bogut brings. And then if you can get
what
that
about Marc Gasol?
Marc Gasol, yeah. No,
He's
I like
probably number one as far as offense.
His is nice. I think I give it to Lopez over Gasol.
And you can't really go wrong with either.
No,
I just think Gasol's aspect.
I take Gasol above Lopez because Gasol's got much better D than Lopez, and Lopez has been known to be a poor rebounder in the past.
And Gasol's ability to pass out of the post
is great. Yeah,
both of the guys in Memphis, him and Randolph, are just incredible.
I mean, I think one of the things you look at teams who have these passing bigs is having another big because they pass to each other. You watch Noah and Boozer. Half the time they get those 4 assists a game, they're to each other. Same goes for Randolph and Gasol.
Yeah. And it's not just passing out of double teams and stuff like that.
It's just passing
in the post passes to
a cutter. Yeah, the cutting pass out of the post I think is one of my favorite things. You look at a lot of teams and they don't have that. But I think if Bogut can come back this, you add so much to this team in terms of passing into the post and then passing it out to one of your shooters. You got Klay Thompson and Steph Curry out there, 2 of the best in the game.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. But in the end, I'm either going Oklahoma City or the Clippers for that final spot.
Now the Clippers are an interesting team because they've have one of the deepest teams I remember in recent years.
Let me read you off some of the guys on this roster, and just
they could honestly go with like a 10 or 12 guy rotation.
Guys they have to keep in their rotation. Matt Barnes.
Yeah.
Chauncey Billups. This is an alphabetical order. I'm just reading that one.
Right.
So you got 2 players, Eric Bledsoe, Caron Butler, Jamal Crawford, Blake Griffin, Grant Hill, DeAndre Jordan, Lamar Odom, Chris Paul. That's 10 right there. And then you've got fringe guys who you can get solid minutes for given injuries in. Turioff, Ryan Hollins, both at the center positions.
And Willie Green. Who started earlier this year.
When
they had some injuries. Yeah. I forget who exactly was hurt.
Billups was hurt. Hill was hurt. Paul has been on and off the court this year.
Yeah, he always gets like those little like stinger injuries.
Yeah. Which is, for them, until the playoffs comes around, no problem. Because Bledsoe, I think, I don't know when his contract is up, but he's far gone. It's ridiculous. Is he in his rookie deal?
Yeah, he was drafted in 2009, like the whole Kentucky year.
Yeah. He's getting paid at 1.7.
My only concern with the Clippers is injuries. That's what did him in last year in the playoffs. Was Paul was hurt.
Yeah.
And Griffin got nicked up.
Yeah. And Griffin's been nicked up. Paul's been nicked up. Crawford, you don't think of him as being a cog to this team, but he's having, I think, his best year this year. He's been nicked up this year. Yeah. That's going to be there. If they have a weakness, it's that. Because then you look at Oklahoma City. Has Kevin Durant missed a game in his career yet? Like, this guy doesn't miss games for long periods of time.
No.
And then you look at their roster, and I think it's not as deep, but it's deep enough.
The West is going to be fun. And then you throw teams like Denver and Utah.
I love watching Denver, and I don't know if it's because, I think they have the best jerseys in the NBA, or because Kenneth Faried is just... I love that guy.
Yeah.
He's got the flow with the dreads. I don't know. I like him. him.
It's bound to be a pretty fun playoff.
That's going to be fun.
In the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's kind of shift gears to the guys who don't get paid to play basketball or aren't supposed to get paid.
College
hoops.
Okay.
March is right around the corner. Conference tournaments, NCAA tournament.
I'm getting in. Now that signing day is come and gone and the Knicks are floundering, I'm getting into basketball a little bit here. So
right.
I'm getting excited.
So do you have any teams, I don't know how closely you followed it up until this point, but do you have any teams that are your surprise teams?
If your surprise team isn't Miami right now, you're not watching.
They're almost like a given. I have them.
They're almost so much a surprise right now. They're not the surprise team, I think.
Yeah.
Their problem is
it's not like they're like floating around in the rankings like 15. I mean, they're the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah.
They're a surprise, but it's almost like now it's like, all right, they're the real deal.
Yeah. I think 3 weeks ago they were surprised. I think when they
trounced Duke.
and they've got another matchup coming up. They
have to go to Cameron.
They have to go to Cameron. I'm picking them to win in Cameron. It's going to be tough.
That's always tough. Duke will be fired up for that game. Kind of embarrassed them.
They're embarrassed, but I think Duke's missing Ryan Kelly a lot.
Yeah.
Because he provided a lot. But surprises, I'm a little surprised by Michigan State just because they lost Draymond Green and he meant so much to that team. But you can't ever count Izzo out.
They're that ultimate team. Like when the old adage that it's like, oh, just get in the dance and see what happens. If you looked up that phrase in the dictionary, there would be a picture of Sparty right there.
I don't think there's a team.
If they get in the dance, book them for the Sweet 16.
There's no team that can more consistently get you to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 than Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans.
Here's like kind of their script for a season. Usually, they start off highly ranked because they're Michigan State, all the history, whatever. Mm-hmm. They lose like a game early in the year or a couple games early in the year that knocks them back in the rankings, and they have like an injury, and then they just come storming back in March, rip through the Big Ten tournament, go to the NCAA tournament, and get to the Sweet 16 at least. Yeah. Like last year, they went to the Elite 8.
So this year, to pinpoint exactly what you just said, they lost
to
2 games before December started.
They lost to UConn
and Miami, who we now know is pretty good.
Yeah.
And they've lost to Minnesota. And Minnesota at the time...
They're going to make the tournament.
They'll make the tournament. And those 3 losses, all before January started.
Exactly.
Before we even got back for class.
Then...
Their 4th loss being Indiana in a hell of a game. Yeah. I don't know if you watched it, but...
I caught a little, but yeah.
At the end, Michigan State, down 3, puts up a 3-point shot, and the kid gets fouled. And I say that with quotations because it was kind of a call.
Could go either way.
But he bricked the first free throw. In a killer. And then 2 plays before that, they got an inbound pass stolen by this Oladipo kid from Indiana.
Yeah.
Who apparently... is now gone from lottery pick to probably number 1 overall, is what I'm hearing from Dick Vitale.
Well, yeah, but he just kind of gets caught in the heat of the moment.
Oh, baby, we got victory at the door.
Yeah, he gets pretty easily excited. Mm-hmm. And then also, Gonzaga is like up to number 3, but they're not even a surprise anymore because they've been running preseason.
Another team who can get you the Sweet 16 every year.
See, no, I'm going to refute that, and I looked this up.
Really? Because
Gonzaga, in the last 10 years, they've been to 2 Sweet 16s in the last 10 years. Granted, the 2 teams they lost to in the Sweet 16 were in 2006. They lost to UCLA on like some crazy like Darren Collison or Jordan Farmar coast-to-coast layup. And UCLA went on to go and play in the national championship game, eventually losing to Florida. And then in 2009... they ran into the buzzsaw that was North Carolina. Yeah, when they had Lawson and Ellington and Hansbrough. I mean, nobody was beating that North Carolina team.
One. I think you had Hansbrough, Lawson, Danny Green, who is now a great pro for San Antonio, Wayne Ellington, who I'm not sure where he is, but
he was in Memphis and then he got traded.
Yeah, I think he got traded this week actually.
No, it was a while ago. I'm pretty sure. But whatever.
He was good there. That's a team that he's not.
See, they get in the tournament and they have a good regular season. I don't know if that's just a product of the conference they play in, but they do play a lot. They played probably as tough a non-conference schedule
as anybody. And they have,
and they're up to number 3. I don't think they're gonna get a 1 seed.
Nah, but they still have to play whatever conference tournament.
I'm just going on what the numbers say. I'll give you another surprise team here. You know them for their football team, the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah, I'm looking at them at 23 saying, when did they get good at basketball?
They were up to as high as number 10 this year. And then they had a 3-game losing streak. They're in second place in the Pac-10 right now behind Arizona, who's number 12 in the country.
And
I'm
Arizona,
pretty sure,
I'll say, is good. They're the real deal.
And Oregon beat Arizona the one time they played them this year. They don't play them a second time, which is unfortunate because that'd be a good...
I'm hoping they meet in that tournament because that's going to be a nice game.
Yeah, in the conference tournament in Vegas. But...
Is there a better place for a conference tournament as a college kid than Vegas? I don't think I'd want to go.
See, I don't like it.
You don't. If I'm a coach, I absolutely hate it.
No, see, the Pac-12, the Pac-10, Pac-12 tournament had been in L.A. For the last some odd years. I think since like '88 or whatever it started. See, I like when the conference tournaments are in like kind of the marquee city for the region.
Yeah,
like Big East, New York City.
I don't think. I'm so disappointed with the Big East and the deformation of this conference because football is atrocious. You know, I don't even know what sports were they good at other than basketball. The Big East tournament is probably just as exciting as the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. Now, have you ever been?
I've never been.
See, I've been a few times. I've gone to the championship game twice.
Without a doubt, the championship game is always good.
It's unreal. Like, I went the year that Syracuse played that 6 overtime game against UConn in, like, the semifinals.
And then they played overtime against West Virginia the next night.
And then played Louisville, who was, like, a 1 seed that year in the NCAA tournament in the finals. It was unreal.
That's good. That's good.
So, like, you know, the SEC tournament should be in Atlanta. The Big Ten tournament should be in... Chi-Town. And then Big 12, I guess maybe like Dallas or
Austin,
Houston.
Maybe. Yeah, Houston.
One of those Texas cities. It's usually in Kansas City, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
The Pac-12 should be in LA.
If you're going by that, yeah, it should. And
Staples Center, you know.
You got you've got your marquee team.
And the ACC tournament should probably be in like Charlotte.
I think we're in Atlanta.
No, it was in Atlanta last year. It's usually in Greensboro because that's where it's headquartering. It's a good time though. I went 2 years ago.
Greensboro, that's the traditional center.
Because the ACC is headquartered there, so they just kind of want... It's like the rule that the NCAA tournament has to be held in Indianapolis like every 5 years because that's where the NCAA is headquartered.
Yeah. But
my wild card pick for where the ACC tournament should be held is Miami. I just think that would be a fun time.
That would be nice.
But it's so, like, you know, everything's got to work out with, like, the arenas, and it's just where most of the schools in the ACC are located. It just logistically makes more sense to be in, like, North Carolina or Georgia.
I think with some of the ACC, we're growing up north.
Well, there's
about D.C.?
Well, there's been talks that once all these other teams, like Syracuse and Pitt, move the ACC tournament to Madison Square Garden.
Please, dude, let's do that.
That'd be a fun time.
Because... Even though still a majority of the teams are not, you think you only got, 4 teams up north? North being anything above Virginia.
But it's New York City.
It's New York City. And I think that'd be nice. There or D.C.?
They've had it in D.C. before, and it was all right.
D.C. is not a basketball town. I don't think they're a sports town.
Well, there's so many players that come from that area. It's
That's
just...
true.
I mean, they have the Wizards, so it's not really like they have anything like to get encouraged about.
Can we talk about the Wizards? They've been on a hot streak.
Yeah.
When they got John Wall back, that team turned around. If they didn't lose their first 20 games, we're talking about an 8.
Did you see the other night what happened at the game?
No.
All right, so they're playing the Raptors, and there's something happened. Rudy Gay hits a shot, and he's going down the court. And he makes, like, a call me kind of hand motion to Wale, who's sitting courtside. Yeah. And those who don't know, Wale is a rapper. He's from D.C. He's real, like, you know, he's one of the bigger names in hip-hop. So the Raptors color guy on the TV broadcast says something along the lines of, I don't know who Wale is, but he's no Drizzy Drake. You know, granted, he's from Toronto, so Drake's, like, they're kind of...
Yeah, Drake being the Canadian.
Son. Yeah. So... The world we live in today, somebody probably shoots Wale a text or hits him up on Twitter saying, "Oh, did you hear what the guy said about you?" Doesn't fire back on Twitter. He was sitting courtside, walks up to where the Raptors announcers are sitting doing the game, and starts yelling over the glass at the guy. This guy's name's like Matt Devlin or something like that. The guy who's, you know, called him out on the broadcast.
That's priceless.
See, I don't think he said anything that bad. He just didn't know who Wale is, which is kind of like, I mean, if you know who Drake is...
If you're an old white guy from Canada, do you really... Are you into
the
rap game that much?
How many songs have Wale and Drake been on together?
That's true. Like a ton, at least last year. But how much? That's hilarious. It's just, I think the funny thing is he doesn't know who Wale is, and then Wale just not even doing maybe writing a song about this Joker, but going up to him mid broadcast and letting the whole world know who Wale is.
Yeah, there's a video of it. You see Wale standing out the side, yeah, come see me. I was like, what?
Oh, man.
All right, but getting back to the NCAA basketball, that was a good little sidebar there. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah, conference tournament locations. This is another sidebar. Mm-hmm. But there was always, I remember when it was announced that Syracuse was going to the ACC, there was the Jim Boeheim line where Jim Boeheim said he loves going to the Garden.
He loves it.
For the conference tournament. Mm-hmm. Some reporter asked him, how's it going to feel now not going to New York City and going to Greensboro for the conference tournament? And his response was, if you polled 10 people, I bet 9 of them would say they'd prefer going to New York City for a week over Greensboro. And the one guy who said Greensboro is probably the mayor of Greensboro. Which I think is that's a classic Boeheim response.
That's a classic line from the guy. And I completely agree with him, though. You think about the best places to play basketball, and you think the Boston, LA, and then New York is on a whole different level.
See, I put Chicago over Boston.
Chicago is nice, too. Yeah. You think with the statue of Jordan outside, yeah.
Yeah, United Center, 22,000 people.
Yeah.
But the Garden's kind of like the Mecca. All right. Now going back to Oregon, Pac-12, they don't play Arizona again. They probably won't see them until the conference tournament. But they're second right now in the Pac-12. Preseason, they're predicted to finish 7th. Now, they've kind of remained in the top 25. They fell out for a week or so, but they've been missing their starting point guard, this kid Dominic Artis, who was playing unreal before he broke his foot or something like that.
Will he come back this year?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But they've been as high as number 10 in the rankings. They just had a 3-game... When they got up to number 10, they lost 3 games in a row. And then they lost the other night to... they lost to somebody. Cal. Yeah, they lost to Cal.
Cal, not a bad team at 17.
No, they're probably going to make the tournament. If not, or they're going to make it or be in one of those playing games.
First 4 in or whatever.
Yeah. So that's my other surprise team. I'm sure there's a lot of other teams you could throw in there.
If you look at the Pac-12, you don't think of that as a dominant conference outside of UCLA, traditionally. And UCLA is sitting pretty at 19-7.
They're gonna make the tournament, but I got some thoughts on them a little later.
I haven't heard enough about them to make an input, but that being said, I haven't heard a lot about them this year. They might not be that good.
I love Pac-12 basketball, so this is awesome for me. If they're gonna have 5 teams make the tournament,
I think
versus a couple years ago when
Colorado was at 18-8.
They're probably gonna make the tournament as well. They won the Pac-12 tournament last year.
They could have That's 6 teams in the tournament.
Potentially.
Now
we just talked about some surprise teams. Now we're gonna talk about some
not surprised
underachieving teams.
Can we just look at this real quick? I'm scrolling through conference standings. Fairleigh Dickinson. 2-13 in their conference.
Yikes.
That's my hometown team right there, guys. Come on. Pull it together.
All right. So let's talk about some underachieving teams now. You mentioned UCLA. They're numero uno, suspect number 1 as far as underachieving teams. Bring in, all the top recruits, Shabazz Muhammad, Kyle Anderson.
Great coaching. Hal Underwood.
Well, the jury's still out on that.
You don't think so?
He got to all those Final Fours, but he hasn't
sealed the deal yet.
That and when he hasn't had the best players, he hasn't had that good of seasons. Now here's my thing on them. When they can I've watched a couple of their games, they can play, but they just don't. They kind of get too selfish sometimes, and they just don't seem like a team to me.
Yeah. Now, do they still have that kid who is 7 feet, 500 pounds or whatever? Or did he
Josh Smith. No, he's gone.
He's gone.
He didn't want to be there.
Okay.
But they're kind of how you were saying, New York is New York Nuggets?
Yeah.
Well, UCLA is basically UNC West. they've got 3 guys on their team who transferred from North Carolina: Larry Drew, and then David and Travis Ware.
I was thinking, I heard his name the other night, and I was like, is that Larry Drew III that quit the UNC team?
Yeah, just kind of pulled a Baltimore Colts, just packed up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and that was
and he's been all right, but he's had his moments of where he reverted back to his North Carolina ways. But they just don't seem like a team to me. Like, evidence of that was...
And I think when you get these transfer kids in like that, it's a problem. Because every NCAA athlete, and this is what makes me mad about Clemson's team, they all think they can go in the NBA tomorrow. Newsflash, guys, you're not all that good. You got to play team basketball to win in college. The offensive game is not sharp enough for like 98% of these players, where you have to use ball movement, quick passes to get into the paint.
Yeah.
And then some kids just don't agree with that.
But like they played, I forget exactly who it was. It was a Pac-12 game.
But this Shabazz Muhammad, he's supposed to be the real deal.
Yeah, but Larry Drew hits a game-winning shot. UCLA wins. Everybody's dogpiling on him.
Muhammad's not.
Muhammad just walks right by him.
Yeah.
And looks like pissed off.
I saw that on sports.
Because that's the one other thing about bringing these high prize recruits is since these kids have been like 10 years old, they've always been the best player on their team.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
And not only the basketball world, because you go from like high school and AAU, they are in the mindset and are being told by these college coaches they can go pro. And
that they're like the greatest things in sliced bread.
Yeah.
And then when they get to college and they're not succeeding, they get frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And Muhammad's had good games. He's scored like 20-plus points in a couple games. But he's just like, I don't know, like sometimes you just get this weird vibe from that. Like he doesn't
he's forcing it.
He doesn't want to be there sometimes, or he's like he just looks like ready. Like he's just like, this was only a stepping stone. Because the one and done rule.
I hate the one and done rule with such passion.
I like it. If they're gonna let the kids come out of high school, there needs to be some kind of other steps. Because if you let the kids come out of high school, like you said, every kid in college thinks they can play in the NBA. Then every kid would declare for the draft and burn their eligibility. That's why there needs to be like a pre-draft. Like, you know how before the NBA draft, they have like kind of like a combine thing where the scouts evaluate. They need to have that for high school kids, and you have to get ranked a certain. There can only be like X amount of kids that can declare, because then you're like these kids come out in the NBA, they don't get drafted. Guys who get drafted in the NBA wind up never playing in there for they don't have staying power.
Yeah, you look at the classic example of this situation, Sebastian Telfair.
Now he's emerged as
lately as a backup point guard, but for a while he just kind of coasted around from a few teams.
But he's kind of like a different case because he's kind of like an undersized player.
Yeah. But for a kid who is labeled the next LeBron James, that's that. But here's my opinion on the one and done. I think the first thing the NBA needs to start working on, develop your D-League into something much more respectable.
That's a good
Add
point.
more teams into small, like Greenville, South Carolina, I think should have a team. Would that not be a great
Make it
Saturday
almost
night?
like minor league baseball?
Yes, that's what I'm going for. I want the NBA to use a development system like minor leagues. So a guy like, I don't know, Jeremy Lin, who used the D-League to get real good, can come in. We get more of those guys. You put Shumpert into the D-League for 3 or 4 games before he comes back. And that gives, these kids who think they can jump out early a better chance, but this is where I change it up to be a lot like baseball. Baseball, you can leave from high school, or you have to go 3 years.
Yeah.
And if the D-League was a more sound thing and not such a fluid thing where I think a lot of
It's almost like frowned upon, like, I'm in the D-League.
Yeah. If it was a more established and respectable thing, like I'm going to go there and I'm going to get good and then I'm going to be great kind of thing, like it is in baseball, then I think you would see a couple guys who maybe fringe should go to the NBA. But then you're going to have a lot of guys who are much more committed to playing in college for 3 years. And that's a game changer, I think.
Yeah. And also, with this one and done rule, like, here's my negative with it. If you're a kid, like, let's say, make up a Joe Blow, and, you're the number one recruit in your class, and, it's a foregone conclusion. You're going to college for a year, and then you're going to go to the draft. Does it really matter where you go to play college ball? Like, think about it. If you're going to be there for... And most of these kids aren't even there a full year, because once the season ends, they go and start training for the
you drop out. Yeah.
Just go where you can have the most fun or where you want to live.
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to go to, Lawrence, Kansas, when you could go to, like, L.A. or Miami or
that's a great
Chicago and, like, have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, enjoy, like, the limited time you have being a college kid. I mean, I know you're there to play basketball, but, like, just kind of live in a more desirable location.
Or, and I don't get this, why do recruits go, like, how does Kentucky get top 5 recruits? If I'm number 2 guy and I see the number 1 guy go to Kentucky, I don't want to play with him. He's going to take my points, he's going to take my stats, he's going to take my minutes.
But I think that's that whole, like, these guys want to try and win, but
they don't really want to win.
But they also just want to kind of... I think it's the whole, like, big 3 mentality. And be like, let's team up and we'll, just run away with the whole thing. But, here's my other theory on that. I think it would just be fun in the NBA if you had, like, 3 guys, like, 3 big free agents.
And then go to Milwaukee or something?
Go to just some, like, godforsaken franchise, like Charlotte, who has no history. And then just build it into something.
Yeah.
You'll be loved in the town forever.
Forever.
You'll have, like, every record and, like, all the history for the franchise.
And the prime example of this is Kyrie Irving is already revered from the Cleveland Cavaliers fans.
Yeah.
Like, they love
I mean, like, when LeBron first got there, granted, it was only 1 player, but, like, next time there's, like, 3 big free agents available, just team up and go to, like, Sacramento or soon to be Seattle.
I can't wait for that to happen. Because who really likes the Kings that much? I loved the Sonics. I loved Gary Payton and the Supersonics.
And they'd have to take the team name and colors back.
Yeah. Well, they already said they will.
Well, yeah, no, it was, like, written into the deal. Like, when the Thunder left, like, the Thunder don't recognize any history from the Sonics.
Yeah.
Like, they're, like, it's almost like an expansion team.
Yeah.
All right, now, staying on the topic of college basketball here.
Let's go to our top teams here. Or who do you have as the best team in college basketball?
I mean, you can't argue with Indiana.
I like Indiana a lot. I think I'm right there with you. Now, I think Cody Zeller. Oladipo's been getting a lot of press because he's kind of the new hot fad.
Yeah.
But I think Zeller is about as a can't-miss prospect as Anthony Davis was.
I wouldn't say that just because Davis is bigger and just more of a defensive presence than Cody Zeller is.
I think Zeller's offensive game is a little more sound and fundamental, though. But I think his defense, obviously...
But Anthony Davis is just so long and such a freak.
But you look at Zeller, he looks just as long. But, yeah. I mean, I think he's up towards that, and I think Zeller could have potential for being the number 1 pick.
Oh, yeah, I think he'll be a lottery pick.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Him and Oladipo, and then this Hollins kid, I always hear when I watch the games, apparently is, like, just the perfect fit for this team.
Hollins?
Is that his name? The white point guard for their team.
Sheehy? No, not Sheehy.
No. Jordan Hulls. Hulls. 6-foot senior from Bloomington.
Yeah, he can shoot the lights out of the ball.
Yeah, he can shoot, and he's a great passer. And he, I think, is secretly the key to this team in terms of just being an all-around team guy, putting them in the spots they need to be. And I look to him to come up huge in the tournament.
All right.
But then I also look at Duke. They'll be there in the end. And then another team we look at underachieving. What about Kansas? They lost 3 in a row.
Well, they were having their usual Kansas year until they lost those 3 games.
3 in a row.
Bad 3 losses, too.
Yeah, and then that TCU game.
Well, yeah, that was in that stretch.
I don't know what the heck happened in that game.
I think Kansas just walked in and was like, they're TCU. We can just kind of screw around and we'll beat this team by 20. They're going to school for free to play basketball as well. They can still play. And they're motivated because they're playing Kansas.
Yeah. I want to pull up the stats from this game because I want to look what was the score after the first half? It was 22-13 after the first quarter.
Yeah, Bill Self ripped them. I would not want to have been at practice.
I wouldn't want to, after the game. If I'm the coach, I'm having practice after the game. Because you
Well, it was an away game, so you got to fly, bro.
Fly home.
You guys are walking back to Lawrence.
You're walking back to Lawrence, boys. You are the number 5 team in the country, and you just put up 13. That's what? A 3-pointer and then 5 other baskets?
Yeah.
And think 2 of those points were probably free throws.
Probably.
But you're supposed to have a bunch of guys, another team that gets the top recruits constantly. What the heck? You're losing by 7 to TCU. Okay, you're losing by 7 to TCU. Maybe it's 35-28. Nope, it's 22-13.
Yeah.
What the heck?
That's like high school.
Yeah. And then
like bad high school.
I've seen intramural basketball games do better than that.
Alright.
But then something happened in the halftime because it came out to be 42-40 in the second half. Kansas still goes down, but yikes. Tough. Like, is that really a team that is going to make it far in the tournament? I don't think so.
You still got to trust them because it's Bill Self in Kansas, and they still have the athletes. They just kind of hit a funk.
That's another team where you guys, it's Kansas. They're gonna get it. They're gonna get a few rounds.
Now let's talk about some teams who are gonna make the tournament. That if you're look at the bracket and you're on a team, you're like, I'm glad we don't have to play them.
Louisville. I think Peyton Siva is one of the more underrated because his size. He's not a big kid. But I think he has the ability to put the team on his back.
Well, he did last year.
Got
to the Final Four.
And that another team that gets tons of great recruits. So the athletes are there. And they're number 10 now, so they'll probably get a 2 or a 3.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to play them.
I have 2 teams for you.
Mm-hmm.
My first is Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
You're talking about a team that you play their style of ball when you play them, it's Wisconsin. Like, it's going to be a knockout, drag it out, slugfest, 50. Like, basically, when you play Wisconsin, first team to hit 50 wins.
I love those.
And they're like, I looked at their, like, NCAA tournament the last 10 years, like, their kind of track record. They're almost a sure thing for a Sweet 16. They're just one of those, like, rugged, like, tough tournament teams. It's full of upperclassmen. They always have the one big dude who can shoot it.
Yeah, where's, John Lure or whatever it is.
Yeah.
What was he, like, 6'10", raining threes a couple years ago?
And then I have another team. They're not really a surprise team because they've been in the top. They've been ranked for most of the year, but the times I've watched them, they've knocked my socks off. The Florida Gators. If they're
that team, that's a good team. I don't think you say for that team.
But I wouldn't want to play them.
I don't want to play them, and I sure as hell they lose every single
If their margin of victory is in the SEC is less than 15,
that's been a bad game for them.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Like, they've been killing teams. They've lost 2 games in the SEC. They got killed by Arkansas. By they didn't get killed. They lost by 11, but that final score wasn't indicative of how much of a blowout the game was. And then they lost by 3 to Missouri the other night.
Yeah, which
they've been killing teams. Like, I watched them play Missouri the first time at Florida. Florida looked 2 steps ahead of Missouri.
They beat Missouri the first time by 31.
Yeah,
they've
beat teams. Just look at some of the scores. Rattle off some of the scores from that.
You got over Kentucky, and this I believe was pre-injury to Knowles, 69-52. Beat Mississippi State 83-58. They lost. Their losses are to Arkansas, Mizzou, Kansas State, and Arizona. They lost to Arizona by 1.
Kansas State's 10, Arizona's 12, and that game was in Arizona too.
Yes. And they only lost to Kansas State by 6. It's your losses to Arkansas and Mizzou, which are tough, but you got to think both those are away games in conference. Things get heated. They beat number 16 Mississippi 78-64. That's a 14-point win. You beat South Carolina, who has a good coach in Frank Martin.
But they're terrible.
They're a bad team, but a good coach. 75-36. They didn't give up 40 points in that game.
Yeah.
You beat Mississippi State 82-47 the first time. You beat Georgia 64-47. You say Mizzou again 83-52 when they were ranked 17th in the country. You beat Texas A&M, who's been their fringe top 25 team the last few years, 68-47. Beat LSU 74-52. I can go on. They beat Florida State, who's supposed to be one of the best teams in the ACC.
They're not this year.
42-47.
But that's a rivalry game. That's early. But in conference play is when I really kind of start to judge.
Yeah. And they beat number 22 Wisconsin 74-56.
Yeah.
This team is really good. And looking at their stats right now, they're 7th overall in field goal percentage, shooting almost 50% a game. They score 73 points a game. They're 156th overall in rebounds, and that could end up being...
That could be indicative of the fact that they make half the shots they take.
Yeah, I mean, you just have less opportunities.
You can't get a rebound if the ball's going through the basket.
And 3 guys on this team that are going to be the key cogs to them going far are Kenny Boynton, the guard, Mike Rosario, the transfer from Rutgers, and I love him, and then the center, Patrick Young.
Who is baby Dwight Howard.
Yeah. And he, I believe...
Minus the whole attitude problem and inability to pick a team he wants to play for.
Yeah, he picked Gators and he stuck with them for 3 years. So you got to respect it.
Yeah.
That's a team, not only do I not want to see them, but I expect them to make the Final Four.
Yeah.
I look at the top 5 right now. Indiana, Miami, Gonzaga, Michigan State, and Florida.
I looked at the Joe Lunardi bracketology this morning, and he had Indiana, Duke, Miami, and who was the other team you said?
Michigan State.
I forget who was last.
Florida, Gonzaga, Duke, Michigan, Syracuse, Kansas.
I think it might have been. I think it might have been Michigan State was the other one seed.
Mm-hmm.
So the tournament, with the whole one and done thing, there hasn't really been any great teams in college basketball.
No.
So the tournaments have been impossible. In 2009, that was probably the last great team.
Great team. Last year's UNC team, I think, had a chance, but they just didn't have it together.
And then Marshall got hurt in the tournament.
That was huge for them.
It's just the tournaments have just been so wide open.
Yeah, and we look at great teams. Those players on Duke or on Florida, those were the 2 guards, Boynton and Rosario, seniors, Young, a junior. That's, I think, how you make a great team.
Yeah.
And then last year, you look at Kentucky, they won it all with the top 5 players in the country. But Kansas, you're running with Whitey and Robinson and Tyshawn Taylor. Taylor, a senior. Robinson.
Taylor's gone. Oh, you're talking about last year.
Yeah, last year. The team that makes the final game, Taylor, a senior, Whitey and Robinson, juniors. I don't think it's a bad assumption to say experience helps you in the tournament unless you have, the best. If you have the best players, you can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
But my early Final Four, I'm looking Indiana, obviously, Florida, and then some combination. I think Michigan's got a shot. Michigan State has obviously got a shot. Duke, and then watch out for Syracuse. Yeah. The zone that's a team I put on the I don't want to play you game, but maybe.
But they're beatable.
They're beatable, but you think of the way the tournaments played. You play 2 games a weekend. If you get Syracuse in that second game, you only got a day to get ready for the zone.
Yeah, and if you've never played it...
Yeah.
See, the reason they lose a lot of games in the Big East is these teams have faced their zone before in previous years. But if you're like a team from the SEC and you've never faced it...
Yeah, and you don't... I'm sure there's a team in the SEC who runs a 2-3, but they're not playing Jim Boeheim's 2-3.
Yeah.
That thing is about as sound as a 2-3 gets.
Yeah.
And, that's why you see Syracuse, they'll lose 4 or 6 games a season, won't always win the Big East. but they're dangerous because if you only have a day to prepare for that 2-3, that's tough to do. Yeah. So I look for them, and then Louisville, I think, is my go-to team I don't want to face.
For the Final Four?
Yeah.
All right, see, my Final Four would probably be Florida.
I love Florida. I love the Florida pick, and the more I think about it, the more I see myself making them win it all.
I think Indiana's gonna get it. I think they're the real deal.
I can't wait to see Indiana-Florida matchup. That's one of my top 5 things I want to see out of this tournament.
I want to pick Miami so bad.
They don't have the experience. This is such a...
They don't have the tournament experience, but they have the playing experience. Mm-hmm. But I just, there's such a good story, and, it'd just be so awesome because,
Because the whole football thing, that team...
It's the Canes. I want to pick it, but
I want to go around young. It's all about the youth.
I think they'll get to, the Elite Eight.
Yeah. The tournament experience hurts them.
See, I don't even know who else. Because it's just been such a backwards ass year. Number 1 has lost so many times.
3 times. Gonzaga is the only team now that's only lost twice. You look in the top 10.
I wouldn't touch Gonzaga with a 9-foot pole in the tournament. Granted, this is probably the best team that they've had in the last couple of years, but still,
you got to think when it comes down to crunch time, these big schools will get it. But yeah, you think even Georgetown at 11, they have 4 losses, or Arizona at 12, they have 4 losses. There's a lot of good teams here.
Yeah, but it's gonna be a crazy tournament. It's almost become impossible to pick.
I'm thinking about it more and more now, and
it all depends on the brackets and who goes down.
That's a good point. I can easily see one region being a lot tougher than
last year we had 2 2 seeds go down the first weekend.
That was the most obscene thing I'd ever seen, and I loved it.
And that's what makes it great, but it's also why it's impossible to pick.
Yeah. I think they said one or some 2% of the brackets had both 2 seeds going down the first round.
Yeah.
On ESPN.
I bet the one where most people had was Duke, just because the pure hatred a lot of people have for Duke. They're let's stick it to them. They're gonna lose.
And I'm the same way. I don't think I ever put Duke in the Final Four anymore.
Yeah,
I hate them.
All right, so that's gonna wrap up college basketball. Now let's shift gears to the sport that's currently in its off season right now.
But is it really ever the off season for these guys?
There's no games, but it's still my favorite thing to talk about. Yeah. And that's the NFL. Mm-hmm. Coming up on the NFL draft. Scouting Combine coming up this weekend in Indianapolis. Our teams,
Giants,
Dallas, and New York, both missing playoffs last year. A lot of holes to fill. Mm-hmm. What's your biggest need in the draft or / free agency for the New York Giants?
Free agency. I want to add an experienced left tackle. The Giants, the line, I think, in the end was what killed them.
That was their strength for so many years, but now it's become a liability for them because they're just
it was their strength because you had 4 guys go through their prime together, and now we're stuck with a couple
holdovers Deal and Snee.
Deal and Snee. We dropped O'Hara. I don't even remember. Kareem McKenzie's gone, and.
And they've always just kind of plugged the one guy.
Yeah. And Will Beatty, he's been injured. It's a lot of, the whole line was just so patchwork job this year. And I think it was that's what I want to address in free agency because I don't want to bring in a young kid there first. Because I feel like there's other spots for a youngin' to come in. But free agency, we need another running back. Because right now, we're looking at...
See, I'd rather draft a running back than pick one up in free agency.
Well, the thing is, we have David Wilson, who will be second year. So he's still... In the NFL, I think you're a rookie for 2 years at some positions, because it takes time to get acclimated.
See, running back, I don't think is one of those positions.
Yeah, I guess you could...
Because my feeling is the 2 positions where guys can come in and make an impact... mostly the one position where guys can come in and make an impact right away is running back.
You think? Well, see, the thing is, David Wilson didn't really do that. He didn't catch on until the end of the season.
But there's been so many running backs who have come in, high picks, and just have had great rookie years. Because
I think you're right.
My feeling is you can dumb down the running. They might not have a great all-around season as far as like catching the ball out of backfield. Like they're probably not going to be on the field on third down because they don't know they can't pick up a blitz. Yeah. But as far as just running the ball, because it's the same.
It is, yeah.
Off tackle is the same in high school, college, and the NFL.
They're going to call it something different, but you're going up the butt.
And the players you're playing against are going to be bigger, stronger, faster. But see the hole, run through it, translates across 3 weeks.
Yeah. You're right. But the thing is, we have David Wilson, and then we're going to get Andre Brown. But he, that's a big question mark coming off the broken leg. So I'm not sure who out there is in free agency, but I wouldn't mind adding a number 2 and then giving Wilson the number 1 role.
Well, I think the number 1 thing for the Giants in free agency is get Victor Cruz under contract.
Well, here's the thing. We got to get Cruz and Nix under contract.
Yeah, that's kind of like a poison pill.
It's tough to decide, and you think...
Because both are going to...
They both require and deserve the money they're going to get. And the thing is, the Giants made a huge blunder prior to the new CBA. They loaded Eli Manning up with money, and they've been taking it back ever since. He's been having to rework his deal so that the team can get physically more guys on the roster. Because they're... the Giants, I think, for a long time, were never a team that struggled with the cap, but now they do. And it kind of sucks.
All right. You said offensive line for New York.
Mm-hmm.
I have on my little sheet here for Dallas as far as what they need. Offensive line.
Yeah.
Offensive line. You said the Giants was a patchwork unit? Dallas... literally had like a different starting offensive line every game.
Yeah.
And half the time the guys that are out there were god awful.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a more important position in the NFL other than quarterback than the left side of your line.
Well, the quarterback's blind side, but in most cases the left side.
Well, I think it's easier to run for a running back left side. You can use your right hand to step on.
Between penalties. And just
you guys, I think we played you late in the season. I've never seen more false starts in a game.
Well, unless the Giants are playing in Seattle.
All right. Easy, kid.
Was that like 12?
Yeah. Yikes. I think it was like 15.
God. Like, the left side, Tyron Smith, he had his moments where he was like, brain farts and breakdowns, but he was pretty good most of the year. It's Mr. Doug Free over on the right side that... See, I have these...
Doug Free his name doesn't sound like he belongs in the NFL.
Half the guys on Dallas I've given the middle name to of Effin. The full word.
Yeah.
Because the only time I say their names, it's Doug Effin Free or Orlando Effin Scandrick.
Oh my god. He's horrible.
If he ever gets an interception, I'm sure I've told you this theory. If he ever gets an interception or turnover, it's a penalty. It's coming back. It's not going to count. Because he is physically incapable of intercepting a pass without just absolutely like running up through a guy. Like you see half his picks, he literally just goes just knocks the guy down and picks the ball. And then he's like, why is there a flag? It's like, you fucking put the guy in his face. like he's like retarded.
Oh, man.
I shouldn't say that, but.
Yeah.
And then also defensive line, because they brought in Monty Kiffin, who's switching to a 4-3, thank God.
Because you did. Why was DeMarcus Ware playing stand-up linebacker for so long?
Well, that's who he's played for, since he's been in Dallas, and he's succeeded in it. But I just don't like the 3-4.
No. I don't like it either. I like putting 4 guys constantly in a 3-point stance and going face-to-face with someone. So, yeah.
So they're going to need defensive line because they should cut Jay Ratliff because he's a bum. And
he's up there in age, isn't he?
He's old, and he missed... If he played 3 games this year, I'd be surprised. He missed so many games this year. They just need guys who can get to the passer.
Mm-hmm.
DeMarcus Ware, and they also got to re-sign Spencer, but that remains to be seen whether or not they're going to do that. And then running back, like you said for the Giants, running back for Dallas because Felix Jones is probably going to not be there next year, which I think is good for both parties.
Yeah. He's kind of fallen out of favor, hasn't he? Because DeMarco Murray's been playing good.
Yeah. And Felix was forced to play a lot this year.
Because injuries,
Murray got hurt, which all his injuries are like these like goofy like his rookie year, he gets rolled up on getting tackled, breaks his ankle.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, he's killing Baltimore. I'm like, heck yeah. He had like 90 yards in the first half. Does something with his foot. He's out for like, they were like, oh yeah, it's going to be like a 3-week injury. He missed like 7 games. Or more. I forget exactly.
I don't think there's a more disappointing thing in sports when you hear, oh, it's day to day. And that lasts 2 months.
Well, I have a whole rant about a team that is notorious for that. And that's your baseball team.
The New York Mets.
I think their doctors need to, like, I don't know where they
leave the organization.
Like,
because
I remember a couple years ago, Jose Reyes they're like, oh, Jose Reyes is out with sickness.
And the next thing you know, his ankle was hurt.
Or I was going to say, he's like, oh yeah, he's out with an illness. And everybody in the world, like, all the reporters that saw Jose Reyes were like, yeah, he's got pink eye. But the Mets doctor's like, oh yeah, we don't know what it is. Like 2 years ago, Ike Davis,
he got a concussion.
Yeah, he just rolled his ankle. Yeah, he'll be back in 3 weeks. Winds up needing surgery on it. Misses the whole year.
And then before he comes back, he contracts yellow fever. Like, what is this? What are we living in Nigeria here? Like, who gets yellow fever part of the season?
What is this, 1812?
Was this brought over? Oh my God, that team! I can't even get started. Like, Carlos Beltran goes down with a concussion. His first game back in like the minors to get warmed up, pulls a hamstring. See you next year, kid.
Yeah.
Johan Santana misses a whole year because that injury was horrible. And then like it even goes back to Pedro Martinez. I think he had an ankle injury again. It must be the fields in Flushing, but has an ankle injury. And then slips in the shower and tears his rotator cuff.
Oh, dude, we can do a whole podcast just on goofy injuries in baseball. Because, like, baseball players, some of them can't get out of their own way. Like, how they get hurt is just, like, mind-boggling.
It's not a contact sport.
It's just, like, off-the-field stuff. And it's just comical to read. Like, SI always had, like, this slideshow of talking about him. And it's just so funny to read.
I remember not too long ago, I think there was a pitcher, I don't remember who it was, playing pickup basketball tore his ACL.
Well, Aaron Boone did that when he was playing for the Yankees.
Yeah. Guys, I mean, how do you do it? Like, for a non-contact sport, there are more injuries in baseball than there ever should be.
Like, John Smoltz burned himself trying to iron a shirt he was wearing. Like... I can't even
go anywhere.
How dumb a human being. Like... Oh yeah, this will work.
Okay, I'll miss.
Like, there's so many. We could do a whole show on just reading those and just laughing. And
I can't even.
All right, but getting back to football. The draft's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Give me some guys who are not going to be probably first round picks. They're not really talked about that much, but might be good or like have a chance to be something special. And then give me some guys who are, pretty big name guys in the draft who probably are not going to pan out.
I'm going to go with someone obvious who we both love and cherish dearly for not going to be drafted in the first round, but it's going to be a big-time NFL player, DeAndre Hopkins.
Nuke!
And I'll tell you, the reason he won't...
See, I've seen him go in some mocks in the first round.
If you go strictly by tape, I think you take him in the top 15.
I wouldn't go that high.
His hands and ability to create separation with his body, I think, is unparalleled by some of these receivers. I'm going to read you Mel Kiper's top 5 wide receivers.
He's in there.
He's not.
He's not? Well, Mel Kiper's also an idiot. But,
yeah.
He also thought Jimmy Clausen should be the 4th overall pick in the draft.
Jesus Christ, how bad. I've never seen a team draft 2 quarterbacks in the first round 2 years in a row.
Well, Clausen wasn't a first round pick. He was like middle second.
Okay, 2 quarterbacks who were going to be the starting quarterback.
Yeah, all right, that's fair.
So you got, in his top 5, you got Cordell Patterson out of Tennessee at number 1, and I respect that because that kid can fly, and he's 6'3". He is a Mike Wallace type player, and he brings in a kick return aspect.
He's a little bigger, physically though than Wallace.
He's 205 too, so he can pound it.
Yeah,
Andre Johnson style.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to list you the other guys. You got Keenan Allen out of Cal, who I didn't hear anything about this year, he's a junior. Taven Austin, who put up unbelievable numbers, but he's 5'9". So he's more of a Percy Harvin type. Then you've got Quentin Patton out of Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, Kuiper just comes up with these off-the-wall prospects.
The kid had 104 receptions apparently, clocking in at 13.4 per. But I have never heard of him. And then Aaron Dobson out of Missouri, a 6'3", 200-pound kid, only had 3 touchdowns this year. But I look at Hopkins, put over 1,000 yards.
He only had one game where he didn't have a touchdown catch.
One game. He scored 3 touchdowns in one game.
And it was Furman that he didn't have the touchdown catch.
Yeah. I think he played the first drive against Furman and then set out the rest of the game.
Yeah.
I just think if you're a team, you're going to get a guy who's going to come in, give you 110% every day at practice, which is not something you get in the NFL, I don't think, who has been relatively injury-free throughout his career.
Yeah.
I've seen him come up bruises and nicks, sore ankle here and there. But he has played to the highest of his ability for 3 years, and I thank him for that. I put the win over Auburn on his shoulders, and I give him the win against LSU. I mean,
no, if he's not in that game, we don't win the game. And I say we, I mean Clemson.
We parade around about Taj Boyd on that 4th and 16. You look from Nuke's angle, they show that from the opposite end zone. Nuke kind of just rolls over and sticks his hands out and it somehow falls in there.
Yeah.
The guy was right in front of his face. I don't know how he makes some of these catches. He apparently has hands that are equivalent of Stickum. He manufactures them on his hands. So
yeah.
I think he's a guy. Quarterback-wise, some guys who won't go first round that potentially down the line, you got to go with Tyler Wilson out of Arkansas. Another guy with big arms.
He'll get drafted over his over slot just because he's a quarterback, and teams do that all the time.
Mm-hmm. I think he won't go first round, or he may go second, but I think he's a guy to watch 2 or 3 years down the line. Maybe an injury happens here. Watch for Tyler Wilson. Yeah, those are my 2 guys I like. And even watch out for Lattimore. Not next year, 2 years from now.
Yeah, he's gonna get the Willis McGahee treatment.
I don't know if he'll even be drafted.
No, he'll get drafted.
Kuiper's got him listed as his 5th best running back, which, for anyone who hasn't seen the injury, unless you can't handle body parts fleanging around, don't watch it. But if you can, watch this injury and you'll quiver.
Yeah.
But I don't see him making an impact anywhere next year. But 2 years from now, this is a type of kid who's going to put in the effort to get good.
Yeah.
And I think technology is the point where we can expect him to come back. Not at the Heisman level, but as a decent running back.
Now, I'll give you 2 more running backs I think are going to be sleepers. Gio Bernard from North Carolina, and this guy, Joseph Randall, from Oklahoma State. Both kind of smaller guys. Mm-hmm. Bernard's kind of a thumper.
Yeah.
Randall's more like the kind of glider type back. Mm-hmm. But the couple times I watched them last season, they could be the real deal.
Bernard at 1,200 rushing yards.
Now, he's had some injury problems. He missed a lot of his sophomore. He's a junior. He missed a lot of his sophomore year with injuries. But when he's played, he ran back. He had a walk-off kickoff return touchdown against NC State last year. Or punt return touchdown.
That's ridiculous. And
then Randall is just... He's I don't know. You can't really put words in it, but you have to watch him and you'll be like, all right, this guy can play.
Yeah.
And then I'll give you a guy. Here's a guy that I would stay away from, just from a football perspective and from an off the field perspective. If I'm a GM of an NFL team, it doesn't even enter the thought. The thought doesn't even enter my head of spending a draft pick on one Honey Badger Tyrann Mathieu.
No. He got arrested a second time, didn't he?
Failed like 3 drug tests, gets arrested, and it's not even the character. He's an undersized safety.
Yeah.
Who makes, like, people are like, oh, you're so good. All his plays were like flash plays, and most of them were on special teams.
Yeah.
I wouldn't spend a 4th, maybe if you can get him like 7th round. Like,
I'll pick him up on a free agent list post-draft.
Yeah, I'd bring him into camp, but I wouldn't spend a draft pick on him.
He's about, I think...
He's like my size, like 5'9", 175.
Yeah. He might push 5'10", and he's not a good cover corner either.
Well, he's a safety, too. But he's not... He makes flash plays.
Yeah. And I think people got caught up in that hype.
Yeah. And then
I agree.
He's a Heisman finalist, and then he gets kicked off the team. Like, you can't have the wherewithal to say, all right, maybe I should stop doing some
on
shady stuff.
On LSU's team, too. And you got to think there's some, things being looked the other way at over there.
Yeah. All right. Now, we're almost out of time here.
Let's talk can't miss guys real quick.
Can't miss?
Can't miss. My can't miss guy, and if yours isn't the same, we might have to end this podcast early. Jarvis Jones out of Georgia. That is my next Ray Lewis right there.
But such a better pass rusher.
Yeah. Yes, I think he's going to be a little quicker. He's not as big, but that's a guy. He made huge plays all year. I'm pretty sure he forced that fumble in the Florida game.
Yeah, I think he did.
To win the game and win them the division.
Yeah.
So I think he's the guy there. Great outside linebacker. Can't miss. He's going to be all-star, Pro Bowl, or whatever they call it these days.
He's definitely one of the better guys. My guy, as far as can't miss is concerned, maybe it's just because I love players that fit his description.
Mm-hmm.
D. Milner at Alabama cornerback. It is just I just love watching big, just physical corners. Now, he's had some questions about how fast he is.
Mm-hmm.
But you just got to put the tape on. This dude can play.
This is a kid on the size of Morris Claiborne, right?
But bigger physically, and will come up and hit you in the nuts. Mo kind of is he'll use his size and rangy, but Milner will just come out and knock you in the mouth.
I like that too. Yeah.
Now, segueing from that, you want to do some way, way, way too early division picks for next year?
Let's do some way too early division picks.
All right, now let's start NFC East. Who are you going with? You going to make the homer pick?
No.
No?
I'm going Washington.
Washington. See, I'm going to make the homer pick. I'm going Dallas.
I already know the Giants are going to suck next year. I think we top out at 8-8.
Really? That bad?
We have too many needs. I said offensive line is our need in our major need, but we had no sacks this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we had 0. But Pierre-Paul and Justin Tuck have got to pick their shit back together.
OC's not going to be back.
OC's not coming back. We have literally no good linebackers. Antrell Roll is the only guy in defense who consistently was there.
Corey Webster had a terrible year.
Get him off my team.
That Baltimore game. That Baltimore game is the equivalent of Mo Claiborne against the Eagles in Philadelphia. Just couldn't get out of his own way.
He was awful.
Stevie Brown was a bright spot though. He had 8.
He was, and I hope they bring him back because I like the 3 safety.
I think he will. He's going to be pretty cheap. They could probably pay him the minimum.
And Kenny Phillips comes back, still struggling with the knee, literally every day. But Prince Amakamura, or however the Prince, he is on the upswing. But you still look linebacker, defensive tackle. We cut Chris Canty. We cut Michael Boley from linebacker.
Well, I think those are salary cap casualties more than
but neither of those guys made a difference this year. And then Webster, and then the other corners are just not good. Like, Tyrone or Justin Tryon came in, like, a few games, and I wanted to sock him in the face because guys would just run by him. And then offensively, I hope we re-sign Martellus Bennett. Because I think another year under the tight end coach, he'll be good. Offensive line, question mark. And then wide receiver.
It all depends on.
It all depends. I mean, there's so many question marks, and Jerry Reese in the past has done well, but I think this is going to be a tough offseason for him. And I don't see it coming around. But I think, honestly, if Dallas can get a good pick or two in the draft, I'd even put them at 2.
It's so contingent upon what the personnel they bring in and how they respond to the new defense. But I'm still
Jason Garrett coming back next year?
As of now, yes. Okay. But that's I could do a whole podcast just ranting about the redheaded wonder kid. Mm-hmm. All right, so North, I'm going Green Bay.
I'm going Minnesota. I think Adrian Peterson built off last year.
See, I want to pick Minnesota, but it's just like
I'm falling out of favor with Aaron Rodgers. Green Bay is a team the Giants beat like 36-10 or something.
But then they also went down to Houston and killed the Houston.
Houston, I've never been high on.
I like them, but I just don't think they can.
Houston, I think, beats up on the little guys and then loses 4 games against New England, Baltimore, and like teams like that.
They killed Baltimore, though.
They did?
Yeah, they destroyed them.
Fucking Flacco just screwing everything up. All right, I take Minnesota though for the division win, but I'm giving Green Bay the wild card there.
All right, I'm going New Orleans in the South. I think just having Peyton back, and they started they started atrocious last year, but they came on towards the end of the year. Even though they picked up that cheap win against the Cowboys, that was bogus how that game ended. But
you remember when Peyton Manning was injured and the Colts went like 2-14 or whatever, and people were like, "Give him the MVP," because it's obvious how much he meant to that franchise.
Yeah.
Look at that scene. They go from 13-3 for like 4 years straight to 7-9. Can we give the MVP trophy to Sean Payton? Like, I've never seen a coach make that big of an impact. Yeah. But yeah, I gotta stick with Atlanta though. I feel like New Orleans' defense is getting a little old, and Atlanta Matt Ryan is next year is going to be the next 3 years will be the prime of his career, I think. And then Julio Jones is already a top 5 wide receiver. And then mark him down with Roddy White.
Yeah.
Is Gonzalez coming back? Has he
It's still up in the air, but probably not.
Yeah. I'm not even worried about that as much with the 2 wideouts. And you look at, I think, Harry...
Well, they just came out today that they're also probably going to cut Michael Turner. He's due like almost $7 million next year. And he's not worth that money anymore.
That's a game changer for me now. Because who's the... Jaquiz Rogers is their other running back.
Yeah.
They're going to have to draft or pick someone up. Or re-sign Turner to a lesser deal, but I don't know if you're allowed to do that.
You can, but...
But there'll be blood. I don't think Turner would after the bad blood.
No.
So maybe I do. Now that's a real tight finish for me.
Yeah.
Because Turner, I think, was a big part of what they did for quite a few years. So maybe I do give it to New Orleans. But then, Breeze wasn't as good last year. Maybe Payne. That's going to be a tricky division. And maybe, then you got to think, that's a tough division. Carolina and Tampa Bay can easily split each series with all 3 of those teams.
Oh, yeah.
So, we'll see. I'm going to stick with Atlanta because of Matty Ice and Julio.
All right. What about the West? The NFC West.
Seattle.
I'm going San Francisco. You can't really go wrong with either. Full year with Kaepernick.
I think, God, yeah, I gotta go. It's gonna be a tight wild card this year as well.
The NFC is stacked. I was talking about this with one of my friends the other day. Every division in the NFC is practically a 3-team race.
You know what you're looking at? The NFC North is going to be Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago. The East is Washington, Giants, Dallas. West, San Francisco, and Seattle. The other 2 teams, they suck.
The Rams aren't awful, but they're not ready to compete with those 2 teams. The gap's too big.
I want to say something as St. Louis. whoever said Sam Bradford is going to be like this franchise quarterback, I just haven't seen it.
I mean, he's not. He doesn't have the talent in front.
Yeah, that's true.
Around him yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think him. So you're like two guys going forward that everybody knocks on that, like, oh, you know, they're kind of busts. But I've seen the flashes. Are Bradford and Ponder.
Ponder. If Ponder can see, that's what I'm banking on Ponder this Minnesota pick. If Ponder
played well towards the end of the year.
Yeah, if Ponder improves, if Ponder improves, AP improves. There's a direct correlation.
Yeah. I don't think if Ponder played in that playoff game, I don't think Minnesota wins, but I think they're in the game.
Yeah.
All right. Who are your wild cards in the NFC?
I gotta go San Fran and Green Bay. I wish I could add another because I wish I could add Chicago and New Orleans. Like, let's just make this an 8-team thing or whatever.
I have Seattle and Chicago as my wild cards.
Chicago, that's a good pick.
There's so many teams. Like, I was struggling.
The thing with the NFC divisions is their biggest weaknesses are they have to play their divisions twice a year.
Yeah.
And you look at so here's the NFC East. Every single team has 6 rivalry games playing the other teams.
And that could go either way, even if teams are down.
In the NFC, like Minnesota, Green Bay, that's a huge rivalry game. Chicago, Green Bay.
Every rivalry in the NFC North is huge.
Yeah. Say minus Detroit. How does Detroit go from playoffs to 4-12? I don't know.
They can't play defense.
Yeah. And then, the NFC South, not as tight of rivalries, but like Atlanta and New Orleans, that's becoming a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then from here going on, Seattle, San Francisco is just going to be, that's going to be a prime time
Now
game.
let's go through the AFC real fast. Just give me like 1 or 2 words on every team, like why.
It's going to be New England because it's New England.
Yeah,
it's Brady and Belichick, and the rest of that division is god-awful.
Yeah, they're not there yet. Mm-hmm. All right, North, I'm going Baltimore. I think Steelers are going to take a step back. Bengals aren't there yet.
If they re-sign Flacco. I don't know if they've tagged him yet, or...
I don't think he's a free agent. I think he's...
He's a free agent.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, they either have to get him a tag... I thought he just had like
1 year. They'll do something. He'll be back.
You can't let the Super Bowl MVP go. On that note, also on the Baltimore note, I want to say this. Jacoby Jones not winning Super Bowl MVP may be the biggest, crime.
Travesty.
Yeah. The guy had a bomb of a touchdown pass, where he catches it on about
They should have at least been co.
Yeah. Catches it on the 10, and then makes 2 guys...
Fall down.
I went nuts for that play. And then he returns the kick and gets the power to go out. And then he had a great showing on, I think it was Jimmy Kimmel Live or Dave Letterman. He was on some talk show, and he was hilarious.
All right. South, I'm going Houston just because Indy, I think, is, they're not going to be able to challenge them yet. Yeah. And then Jacksonville and Tennessee are just...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Abominations. West
is so clearly Denver for the next 2 or 3 years until Peyton Manning.
All right, now let's go wild cards. I struggled to come up with 2 wild cards in the AFC. In the NFC, I was like, all right, who do I pick?
Yeah.
Dude, the 4 teams I was considering for wild cards in the NFC could all probably win their division in the AFC. The AFC, I was like, who the hell do I pick?
The AFC has 2 divisions where they only had 1 team with winning records.
That was the East and
the West.
My 2 wild cards in the AFC are Cincinnati and surprise kind of pick, San Diego.
You think San Diego improves? Have they fired North Turner yet?
Yeah, they brought in Mike McCoy, who was the O-coordinator for the Broncos last year.
That's
one of the things. I was looking up some stats. San Diego was top 10 in total defense last year.
I think will surprise a lot of people.
They were 9th.
And
Rivers had a bad year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was, but I think they'll be rejuvenated. I think the whole North Turner, kind of message had just been kind of drawn out.
Yeah.
So.
And then I think
slash combination of there's no one else I could.
And you got to think they're a 7-9 team, and they lost that Denver game
They were in a lot of the games.
They were up by like 24 at half.
Yeah, they were in a lot of games last year.
So
they also had some bad losses. They lost to Cleveland like 7-6 or something like that.
I agree. San Diego could be a sleeper team, but I honestly, just looking at it, the only team, I think the playoffs stay the same. Unless the only, like, in my mind, you flip Cincy for Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh gets in at 9-7.
Would Pittsburgh, wait, so your 2 wild cards would be Cincinnati?
Or the 3 teams I think can get the wild card are Cincy, Pittsburgh, Indy, some combination of the 3. Just because they get the benefit of playing Tennessee and Jacksonville twice a year. And, I mean, I haven't looked into the scheduling and stuff yet, but it really all depends on who these teams divisionally play. Because, I mean, in the NFC, it doesn't matter. You're going to, whatever NFC division you play is going to be tough. Unless you play the West. You get St. Louis and Arizona. But even then, those are tough outs.
The South,
you still got to play Carolina and Tampa Bay, and at home, those are tough teams.
I'm trying to think. The AFC South they played the AFC South played the NFC North last year. And then the year before that, they played I think they're due to play the NFC West.
Mm-hmm.
Because 2010 season, the AFC South played the NFC East. Last year, they played the NFC South. Yeah, so they're due for the NFC West.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see if we can... I'm trying to look this up real quick.
So that'd be Houston playing San Francisco and Seattle and all them boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, I mean, the AFC is just top heavy with 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah.
Whereas the NFC is going to be a playoff.
Proposal. Let's just... AFC only gets 1 playoff team. NFC gets another one. But they have to play in the AFC bracket. That would be the ultimate wild card.
If the AFC gets 1...
Do you throw a third NFC wild card team, but put them in the AFC bracket?
Oh, so the AFC only gets 1 wild card.
Yeah.
I love it. So you
throw Minnesota in the AFC bracket and just
what's Roger Goodell's email? Let's get him on the phone right now.
Yeah. That would probably be priority number 10 on things. I'd have to tell him.
Yeah.
But, so those are way too early NFL picks. That's about to wrap it up for the show. Brad Haider, Ben Wowk. Until next time.
Adios.
Adios.